Welcome to Greece, guys. I am living here for 1 month, and throughout this month I'm going to be basically enjoying the sun, swimming at the same time as working on my software, trying to scale it. I want to try and make another 10,000, £15,000 this month, but that's going to be quite tricky because there's a lot of stuff to do. I'm actually very far behind this month. I've been traveling, I've been in Estonia, and then I've just got to Greece, and obviously it's always the way when you travel somewhere, you just take a long time to get into the routine of things. So hopefully today we can start to figure out a bit of a strategy to continue through the rest of the month, but I want to give you a breakdown on what's actually happening in the business. I'm going to show you where I'm actually working. So this is the Airbnb I'm staying in. As you can see, there is a very strong green theme, but right now this is where I am working. So this is currently my desk setup. I've obviously got the view out there. Another reason I'm kind of having to work from this spot because that is where the Wi-Fi is, and the Wi-Fi in this house is terrible. So I'm probably going to jump on and basically just walk you through some of the numbers that explain kind of what's going on a little bit on a screen recording. Here's a bit of a breakdown of what's going on so far. At the start of, I think it was May, middle of May, so not even a month ago, we started actually charging annual recurring revenue. So within 3 weeks, I'm now up to £9,000 roughly in annual recurring revenue. So this is a breakdown of what's happening so far. So on the 17th of May, I started charging for annual subscriptions for CodeSpring. So within the last 3 weeks, we've done about £9,000 in annual recurring revenue, which is very cool. The only problem that I'm having is working out a consistent way of scaling this, because at the moment, most of this scale is coming through the personal brand, and what with traveling, there's just been a lot less traffic coming through. And then I've been trying to do this through paid ads. So I'm going to walk you through some of that paid ad strategy. Today, I've actually had to stop running those paid ads because they just became so expensive. So we're now moving on to a new strategy, and that is testing out different marketing angles and some other bits and pieces as well. So if I just show you between, I think it's the 12th and 13th, I set up this market research angle, and I'm filming this on the 16th, so it's different to when I'm showing you in the vlog, but you'll get the rough idea. This is the new market research angle that I'm testing here. This is the product that I really want to build. This is the actual, the feature that's really the selling point of this app. Market research angle is actually doing much better, right? We're getting cost per registration is about the same, but we're getting a much higher opt-in rate and much cheaper cost per click. We'll do the 12th to the 14th. Look at it in total, $7.58 to get a lead to register for the Ever webinar versus $11, so cheaper all the way through the funnel. This stuff here isn't tracking correctly, but I actually spent $200 in total on this, so I ended up turning it off, right? Because my cost per registration was too high, my cost per lead was too high. So those are the results of the ads so far. So the ads have been doing okay. For every dollar that we spend, we've been making back about $1.50. The problem, I think, really started where last week on like the 6th, I doubled the budget because obviously I want to scale, and I was quite aggressive with the scaling, and I don't think that the funnel is perfectly optimized yet for ads, and then the costs have just been rising ever since. I mean, like 3 days after we did incredibly well, we've probably done, I don't know, about £1,000, £1,500 in additional revenue from that. The thing is, I want to be doing about £500 to £1,000 per day in revenue from the ads, and at the moment, with the way that the costs are, it's just not really feasible. I'm going to have to spend exactly the same. So I'm going to have to spend £500 or £1,000 per day in ad spend to make back £2,000, which is fine, but you're only making, £1,000 of profit. So it's not ideal. There's a lot of stuff that kind of needs to be done in terms of figuring out the funnel. My biggest problem at the moment is the cost per registration. So the webinar is converting insanely well. So it's basically, the way I'm doing it is I'm sending traffic to an automated webinar, and then it sells people on a yearly plan for CodeSpring. The problem is that it's costing me about $10 to $15 to get somebody onto that webinar, which is fairly okay, but also, if I could get that down to $6, then my ROAS just dramatically increases. The webinar is like crushing it in terms of conversions. The problem is just getting people onto the webinar. So I can definitely optimize that front end part. So what I'm trying to do today is I've got to figure out, obviously I've got to get back onto content. So I've got to film some content for the Instagram channel, get that over to the editor. Today, that's like priority number 1. Then I need to actually go ahead and plan out and script out some ads that I can then cycle into the campaign. So I think what I'm going to do is just going to give you guys a bit of a tour of the villa while I kind of walk through the problems that I'm having. We probably have to do some sort of thing with the wind, but essentially the real problem that I'm having is every single time I spend $1, I make $2 back, which is great, but that's not a very high scale. As I scale and as I start to spend more money, I'm going to end up basically losing ROAS, right? So when I get to the point where I'm spending $300 a day, maybe my ROAS will drop to like a 1.8, which is really not very good. So I really need to optimize the funnel, okay? So that's step number 1. This is obviously scaling the whole thing through ads, because at the moment the personal brand just isn't big enough to be able to take it to the scale that I want. There's already people who are now starting to try and create the same product as me. So on one hand, right, I can continue to work on the personal brand and just make that my main focus, but it's not gonna make me as much money. Also, look at this view. Isn't that insane? I'll take you guys down to the beach later. But the other thing is, with software, this is the ultimate goal. I want to exit the software, right? Which means if I want to exit, revenue is probably just as important as profit, right? Especially with software, because it's annual recurring revenue. If you're just seeing like consistent scaling and growth, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much fine. So basically the Ever webinar is converting from ads, but it's not converting profitably enough. The next thing that I need to focus on is actually spending time on the product, because I haven't done any development stuff for the last 3 weeks because, you know, if nobody's buying the product, there's no point doing that. But now I'm actually bringing on customers. I'll show you guys upstairs. But now I'm actually bringing on customers. I should probably spend a little bit more time, and also that's going to help me in the marketing side. Now, I do have a plan, because I filmed a video a while ago. It's going to be a bit echoey for a second. So here we have the other balcony. This one's pretty cool. So there you go, that's a rough villa tour. Okay, so this is a breakdown of what's going on right now in the business and the different strategies that I'm trying. This is just gonna be like a talking head video. It's gonna be boring. It's not meant to be interesting, but it's more of a documentation for me in the future, so I can see like all the stuff I was testing and what worked. And if you guys are doing the same thing, you can kind of compare with what you're doing. So at the moment, what I'm trying to do is scale CodeSpring. And there are various ways of doing that. First of all, the funnel or the mechanism that I'm using to sell is basically a webinar. Now there's two ways of doing a webinar. You can do a live webinar, or you can do an automated Ever webinar. And an Ever webinar is just basically like a replay that people come along to thinking it's a live, but it's actually a replay. So I don't have to actively be there. The cons of an Ever webinar is because it's not live, you're not interacting personally with the audience. Like if you guys were there, I could talk to you directly and I could say, you know, I could answer your questions and I could then sell you specifically. That means I could convert more people. You convert less people. The pros being that actually, because it's like just in time, the pros of it being because the webinar happens every 15 minutes, if a lead registers, the chances of them signing up and actually then showing up to the webinar is much greater than if somebody actually just, you know, registers a week before. There's very low chance they'll actually turn up. However, if you actually look at the metrics, and I've broken it down, I'll probably screen share at some point or show some screenshot. If you actually look at the metrics between the Ever webinar and the live webinar, just for organic, I'm converting 2.5% of my leads from organic live webinar versus 1.5% of my leads from organic Ever webinar. So I'm actually making less money by basically doing Ever webinars. It makes very little sense. The benefit of that being it frees up some headspace, right? So I don't have to be in the business all the time doing the lives. That being said, it's quite a financial hit, especially with the level that I'm currently sitting at the moment. So I think I'm going to have to go back to doing the live organic webinars. That's kind of fine. The only problem that I've got is the ads, okay? Because ads, like if I can get ads cracked, I can scale infinitely. I could basically spend $1K a day and I could make $3K back. Perfect. And I want to be sitting at 3x ROAS. The problem I've got is it's far too expensive. So two options. One, I basically rebuild the funnel, and I'll explain that in a minute. Option number two is I basically run ads to a live webinar. That comes with a whole host of issues as well. So at the moment, I'm kind of just sort of, you can see how there's so much stuff going on that I'm just trying to work out what to do. I mean, part of this vlog for me is really just the fact that I'm able to just yap to the camera, which allows me to just think it through. I've got my brother here at the moment, so it's helpful to chat with him, but there's a lot of stuff to think through, and obviously you've got to be quite smart about where you spend your time, right? I've got people who are trying to compete with me now, I've got people who are trying to build the same product as me, and you know, I think I'm better at marketing than most of these people. The trouble is they've got much bigger audiences. So there is also that. And then inside all of this, I've got to find time to actually make the product better. I probably should hire a customer support person to help me out with that. Basically, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not at the scale yet that I need to be in order to make this, so I can actually start hiring people to scale this quicker. I think what I'm going to do now is, just to get back into the flow of things, I'm going to film some content for Instagram, sort of updating people on where I'm at. And then once I've done that, I'm going to rebuild the Ever webinar funnel probably, and then see how long that takes. That's probably going to be like a week's worth of work, in which case I can probably start running live ads to a live webinar. This is probably going to be very boring for you guys to watch, so I'll stop this here and I'll sort of get back into work. So what I'm doing at the moment is just going through everything that I've done so far, just catching up with everything. And I've got actually ClickUp setups. This is all the stuff that my editor's doing. So he's working on all of this content for me. So the editor's also done this vlog, so that's coming out very soon. Right now he's working on this long form content. I've basically filmed a course for CodeSpring, and I've mentioned this in one of my previous videos, but that is going to be coming out soon onto the CodeSpring YouTube channel, and that's going to be like a large part of the marketing strategy. But I've also got this, which is basically like a Notion thing where I can actually start to take notes, and I'm basically planning out video content. So I've got this whole document here of all different video ideas. So I've just written this one, which is running ads to CodeSpring, and now I'm just writing this one, which is setting up Hyros. I'm not a massive fan of writing my content, but it does speed up the process. Like if obviously I'm vlogging, so it's taking longer, but if I write it down, down, I keep it succinct, I keep it good, I know how to make a fairly okay script. It could get 5,000, 10,000 views. That means I can sit down and I can write 3 videos in 20 minutes, and from that I then make 30,000 views or something, which is pretty decent. The only downside being it takes a while for that video to then become published. But if I can then start to get to the point where I have all the content backlogged, now I'm going to be set up here for a month. Me and Arjun, my editor, are going to try and set up a process where basically I just film content. He's really keen on me getting some more B-roll, so if you're watching this, I will get some more B-roll. And then it just means all that content's going out, so then I can just stop focusing and worrying about that, which is really, really cool. So anyway, I'll get back to work, but I just wanted to give you an update on that process. I'm trying to build like systems and processes in that make it easier for me to scale this, because as you can see, there's a lot going on. So basically, I'm just gonna get back to it. I'm gonna start filming content again, get the personal brand kind of ticking over. I've had a few people register for the live webinar, which is happening. I'm gonna do one on Monday night. I've got no idea if the internet's gonna work for that. But if we go through here, you can see I have set up this to film my content on. So basically that is going to be the view, and I'm just going to set up the tripod and sit here. So it'll look something like that, but obviously in portrait view. The other thing that I've done is I've got all of my content scripted. So I do it all on ClickUp, literally just going to rest it up against the bucket, and then I'm just going to record myself. That is pretty much it. The one problem I've got as well is we've got these horrible loud machines driving past. I seem to have found the one place in Greece where there's just loads of lorries driving past. There's like some buildings, I think they're building a new road up this mountain. I don't really know why, there's nothing over there. So anyway, we're gonna film some content, and then I need to get some B-roll shots for the editor, and then I'll get all those uploaded, probably go for a swim, clear my mind, and I'll come back to you once that's done. Cool, that's 3 pieces of short form content filmed. My brother's out, basically my family are staying here at the moment with me, so my mum and dad are here in this house, and Matthew's also here. He's on holiday for a week. My mum and dad are on holiday for a month, so it's quite hard to sort of work around them. So while they're out, I'm just basically getting as much content done as I possibly can. They'll probably be back at around 2. I do want to go for a swim. One of the main reasons I came to Greece is just to get some sun, but also, you know, when you're building software and you're sitting at a desk all the time, it's very, very hard to get enough exercise in. And with a beach down there, I love swimming. I've swum for years and years and years. The other day, so I swam from like around here down there to probably all the way around there somewhere. So I do a lot of swimming. So I'm gonna go down, do some exercise. So I'm just gonna go for a quick walk down to the beach. It's literally a few minutes away. I've only been here for like 3 days, but the goal is sort of, you know, over time as I get into a bit of a routine, I'll probably take some time at lunch. I'll do like a full day's worth of work. But yeah, I'll probably show you guys the beach, and then I'll go for a swim and put you guys away. I can literally just walk down from the villa. I got here in about 3 minutes, and to be honest with you, I'm not really sitting on the beach, I'm just going swimming. So although it's not super windy today, it's been windy for the last few days, which is why it's quite rough. So it's not the best for swimming. And all of this costs exactly the same as what I'm paying for my flat in London. I literally just went around the corner over there. There's a pretty cool beach with loads of waves. Like, I love being in Greece, it's so much better. I forgot, like when I did this last year in Sicily, it was just so nice. Like to be standing here, heated by the sun, to go back up, to continue working on the software, it's just perfect. I think I'm gonna go up now and just finish the work that I was doing before I left. I really want to do some work on like actually upgrading the app and just building the app. This is the other thing, like when I go swimming, my mind just, it gives me time to think and work out, you know, what do I want to be spending time on, what things I need to be improving. I forgot to do an update on the results of that previous test. So I'll walk you through it, and the new stuff that I'm doing is now a completely different day. But I basically finished building off this landing page. So this is all working fine. We're actually getting a much better opt-in rate from this. I built this little thing here, which kind of explains the 3-step process on what they get, how they need to show up to the live class. But I'll walk you through the results of the ads. I'll probably put a screen recording in here. But basically, 2 things happened. One, the cost per registration came down. So I started testing that new funnel with a new ad and a new angle, and basically just got a much better opt-in rate, much better sharp rate. The costs were just significantly better. Problem was nobody was buying. Purchases just weren't coming through, and Matthew and I were having a conversation the other day trying to work out like why this is happening, what's causing it. And from talking to people that I know that run ads and just sort of looking at the data, it seems that the biggest issue that we're having is basically that these people who are registering and coming coming along to the webinars, we're just not getting enough leads buying. So if they're not buying, you're just not getting the optimization window hit, which basically means you just get really unstable ads. Like when you first launch them, you'll get a few sales, but then Facebook's just not getting enough data to then like hone in on an audience and optimize for that audience. Whereas with the cost per registration, optimizing for that, I'm getting significantly better costs. So the problem with that being it's a lower quality audience, which means there's less chance that they will buy, but it's cheaper to get leads. So if I can convert those leads, it'll still work. So basically what I'm doing now is I've sort of got fed up with running these EverWebinar live ads just because it's very hard to scale. And I've switched to doing live webinars. So I'm doing a live webinar tonight. And what I've done is I've basically said, right, $10, $15 cost per lead is what I was getting on the purchase conversion campaign. Now I'm getting $1.70 cost per lead. So massive reduction in cost, which means I'm getting a lot of traffic. And hopefully then if I can get those people to show up to a live webinar, I should be able to convert some of those. And then if that starts to make, ROAS, if I'm making profit on that, like Matthew did it, and he was getting like 3, 4, 5 ROAS from paid ads to a live webinar. But here's one thing that I'm doing, which is really cool, because when you try and register for the webinar for the software, basically there is a live class happening. I can set up live classes. So I've got one happening obviously today, 16th of June, and that's the only one that they can come along to. But what I will usually do is I'll probably, like when I'm in London, I'll do one on Mondays and one on Thursdays. So I need to work out a schedule on when I'm doing these live webinars. But what I can do is I literally just replace the button on this website with the EverWebinar. So the ads keep running to the same site. This will then just say there's a webinar happening in 15 minutes, which will be a replay. So if I'm doing the live webinar, I'll only run traffic 2 days before, 1 day before. So I did, Sunday and the day of. So the day before and the day of, I'd run traffic to the live webinar. And then in between those dates, I would run the traffic to an EverWebinar, which means I can kind of be testing both at the same time while letting the ads optimize without having to turn them on and off. That's kind of my new plan, which basically just means I can make high ROAS through the lives, low ROAS automated through the EverWebinars in theory, but we will have to wait and see what happens.